Welcome to Sith Talk, brought to you by Galactic and Lanyard, bringing you news from Star Wars The Old Republic and beyond. Join us now as we explore the universe and take down the Republic in a galaxy not so far away. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Sith Talk, everyone's favorite SWTOR podcast. Well, one of the few remaining at the very least.
Only your favorite because we're the only ones left.
Well, maybe not. That's still yet to be determined. We've got some a fair bit of information this week. We've got a Q&A. Of course, we had the 1.3 patch drop this past week, and everybody's had a chance to weigh in on that. We've got a few posts from our Facebook site we're going to talk about. And, of course, we want to make sure we talk about our Audible sponsor. That's right, going to audibletrials.com/Sith Talk gets you 30 days out of Audible trials. And, of course, a free book on Sith Talk. And if you choose to sign up with audible.com, of course, you get a book a month for only $15. Lanyard and I have used it quite a bit.
Ooh, and it's a new month.
It's a new month. I'm waiting for my next new book. I'm not sure what I'm going to go with. Probably something Star Wars, since Kevin was nice enough to give me a book. And, of course, we have our announcement, since this is episode 20, the Big 2-0, almost legal to drink. We decided we're going to go ahead and give away a free Audible book out of my pocket. We did get a little bit of kickback, so of course we have the announcement of our winner. I used the program at randompicker.com to draw our winner from the long list of likes we have on Facebook. And so we've got that to announce this week, of course. And I will be contacting the person who won via Facebook to get the appropriate email to send the gift to.
We're not going to tell who it is?
Oh, not just yet. We can't start the damn show off with that. Everybody listen to see if they won and then fucking run off.
Yeah, that's right. At the end of the show.
Exactly. Well, not the end, but we'll announce it at some point. But we do have a small amount of news, some viewer responses, some listener responses to last week's show, and a little bit more here and there. But we've got a little bit of maintenance. We did get some emails this week. Rob was nice enough to touch base. He said you asked how to pronounce the name and legacy the character and legacy names. My main Kelgan is pronounced Kelgin, and my legacy name Enceladus is pronounced Enceladus. It's from Greek mythology. He gave me a great wiki link, and then I used another program, since my pronunciation is shat at most times, to make sure I had pronounced it correctly. And then, of course, he said, I like the discussion about the free-to-play model for SWTOR. I heard before that they were doing it free-to-play to level 15, which would be accurate. They did introduce that a little while back, and they're still doing their free weekends for trials, so you can get in and give the game a go and not be obligated to play. He said even WoW has a free to play at lower levels, which is 20, and it's enough content to get your beak wet in either game. Let's see. It also says here, plus, I think I may have said in previous emails, games like Lord of the Rings Online, Age of Conan, both have survived for a few years on a free-to-play with 100 to 200,000 players, and EVE has sustained itself for over 10 years on 300,000 subs. All this SWTOR is dying talk is nonsense, being spouted from idiots, so I'm glad to hear you guys feel the same way. Also, I have already liked you on Facebook and followed you on Twitter, or Twatter, as it is affectionately known in the UK. So, he says he's a reader, not a poster, though, really. So, cheers, and we thank Rob, as always, for his responses. I always look forward to hearing from any of our fans, so emails are definitely a plus. We didn't have any new reviews on iTunes, but we did have some comments on episode 18 that we're going to address after we get through the news. because we post with Swotor. We were posting with Teach and Swotor, as our viewers know and listeners have probably heard in the past. We also we're posting our audio feed on Podomatic, which we still do, and we still and we still have plenty of downloads going through there. It's still been a great source of feedback for us throughout the podcasting times. We'd like to hear from anybody. We did post when 1.3 went live. I posted it's live. Oops, I mean it's finally live. 1.3 is live on the is on the live servers now. I told people to post their thoughts, and they could be part of the show. So we're gonna share that with you guys after we get done with the short round of news. But for the time being, let's go ahead and cover our week. So Lanyard, I know you were busy this week. What do you got going on? What did you have going on? What did you get to enjoy?
Well, we got to do once again. We got to do more raid content, ops content. Did some. Oh God, which ones did we hit this? I know I did. We did. Well, I have to work backwards. That's how.
Well, the mass exodus, I believe, was in EV.
Yes. We did. Well, okay. So last night we put together a 16-man EV hard mode.
Yes.
And Diggy from Complications says, "Hey, we're just throwing this together. Who wants to come along?" And this was one of his rare occasions where he didn't give a shit who came. So in other words, we don't care what your gear is or anything. So we knew. So going into that, we knew it was going to be a rough row to hoe. And so like. We invited our new guildie, Vaughn,
yes.
Vaunaria, I think is his name. And
say Vaughn. Vaunaria sounds like a disease.
I know, I don't know what that is, but okay. He's out of Texas, it sounds like, and yes. So he got to come along, and you whispered me when you saw. I was like, dude, his gear is shit, and I never looked at his gear. I actually never looked at his gear. I just knew it was like blues and greens, whatever you get from doing missions, because he hasn't been able to do ops because of his time constraint. Life aggro. Yeah. So we brought him along. We had a couple other people in there. We threw a few pugs in there. Of course, our buddy Crazy. So anyway, we went through, and and then, of course, they decided to put me as main tank, which I've never been main tank really for an ops. So, and
for a 16-man,
and for a 16-man. I mean, it's for me that's a lot of pressure, Yeah. So I'll go in there and we do the first droid, the robot guy, the annihilation droid, and he kicked our ass. Not once, not twice. Not 3 times, but 5 times he kicked our ass. And so after 4 hours fucking around with multiple pugs, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse because we were just mind numb. We said fuck it. We said fuck it. So that was our Uber fail on that. Prior in the week, me and I were in with Complications and did Denova, 8-man hard. Denova. Excuse me. Why do I say that wrong all the time?
I can barely pronounce anything, but you fuck up the pronunciation.
Right. If it doesn't have hyphens and accent marks, I can't say it. So Denova, excuse me. Went into Denova and took down Toth and Zorn, which is the first 2 guys you grab, and that took us a little while. We had never been in there. We understood the idea, but we just weren't getting the mechanics down right. So we did that the first night. I think we failed like 3 or 4 times and decided, okay, let's step back and come back in tomorrow. So we came back in the next night, and we brought somebody that had done this several times and knew we had the concept down where you have to swap the tanks, have to swap the Zorn and Toth when they jump and all this other stuff. We had the mechanics down, but we were doing it in the wrong spot. We were too far away from each other to keep getting to grab them. So he showed us a new spot to do it. First time, boom, got him down, no problem. Went through the cave, and of course everybody's like, "Whoa, we've never been past this spot." This is really weird. And so we went through the cave, and then got to the two attack droids, these two gigantic attack droids, hovercraft type things, and it sounded like a straightforward fight, but
Right.
we wiped twice on that. We had already been going for several hours, so we decided to call it a night there. And then, as we normally do, the next day we decided to do something different. I don't. It's like, why don't we finish this, please? I still have not gotten through Karagas Palace. Now, the other thing that I did this week was I told Complications, I was like, listen, I'm losing my ass on repairs. I've got to do dailies.
Right.
So I think it was Tuesday. I said, I'm doing dailies, so I'm running dailies, and I'm ignoring them. I'm just, blinders are on. I'm doing my dailies. And I finally got Belsavis all the way open, and the 3 planets, I ended up getting 680-some thousand credits. Like, score. This will last for about 2 ops. So, and I saw where they were. I saw on my friends list that they were all doing Karagas Palace. I was like, oh, that figures, And then the first thing they whispered to me when we went to do this ops last night was, hey, by the way, we finished Karagas Palace. I was like, fuck! So that was my week. That was it. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. As far as my week goes, I spent a lot of time in LFG. We made a big fuss about it leading into 1.3, with the nonstop back and forth of we really need it, we don't need it, we need it, but we know there's going to be problems. Right. So I did everything I could. I stayed in the looking for group. I'll say 85% of the time, because as everyone knows, the chosen direction from BioWare was to drop you back off at the fleet, which by and large wasn't a bad idea. As you had said, you pretty much have to pick up all the missions there anyway, so you might as well fucking go there.
To drop them off. Yeah.
Right. But that only applies actually with the daily and the weekly, which you have to drop off the box. But I did find it to be a great quick travel, too.
Yeah. The flashpoints, you do have to turn them in there. I know the low level ones you turn in right there at the little computer boxes in front of the. So those now.
Well, what it ends up doing is gives you the mission you would have picked up outside anyway, so it doesn't really make a big shit difference. And before you leave, once you've completed the run, it automatically hooks you up anyway. But I mean, overall, it's not too shabby. I got to do every hard mode for the flashpoints.
Nice.
Which was definitely enjoyable. So I was able to unlock my Aratech Ice mount.
Nice.
So that was cool for me. I also got some cool, names for Rakat. I haven't quite completed the same mission on Nagajalokia yet, but I've been working on it, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, when there's, and I don't know if you noticed it, but there were a couple points where there was anywhere up to I think it was 4 Imperial fleets at a time.
Oh yeah, you mean shards? Yeah.
Yes.
There was 5. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, something like that. Earlier in the week, there was 5, and in fact, I remember when we were doing it was Tuesday, launch day. We had 5 shards. I ended up on shard 5 at the end there, and was working on the augments, which I hope we can discuss later about your misinformation.
You owe me.
You owe me.
It was a misunderstanding. Shut up.
And
but I did.
I ended up being like the last one on the shard, which was kind of cool.
But I mean, I did end up, playing quite a bit in the LFG, and I got into a lot of groups. It was exactly what I expected. For a while there, it was 1 out of every 5 groups was really good. Then it slowly but surely got better, because the people who were running them that were already uber geared were running them because they just wanted to get the daily comms or they want to get the black hole comms, so and that's fine.
All the news were getting washed out.
Well, yes and no. One of the biggest things we talked about, it was prior to the LFG, we had little to no FP experience.
Right.
I mean, myself, on both my characters combined, maybe ran 10. Because I didn't want to sit around fleet. I wanted to go and do dailies. I wanted to level my alts. and I just nobody knew these fucking things.
Right.
What happened to me was right after the launch of LFG, I got in. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fucking awesome. Oh, look, Battle of Ilum. Get done with Battle of Ilum.
Oh, look,
Stay
Battle of
queued
Ilum.
up. Battle of Ilum. Get to it. Go. Okay. Well, surely to God, they're going to let me into something else. Battle of Ilum. And I'm like, oh God, this is really getting fucking on. Okay, one more time today. One more time, and then I'm going to go and work on another character.
Battle of
Ilum. So it
Got
gets really
this one.
frustrating. I don't know what the RNG is for that, but I'm sitting there and I'm going, come on, something else. I mean,
well, you got in your dailies. You didn't have to mark that one.
well, and see, that's just it though. If you leave it up, if you leave the LFG alone, you don't change which ones it queues you for. It just has you queued for all of them.
Right.
I mean, obviously, since I got my mount, I didn't queue up for any of them all the way through. But it shortens the distance, the time, and you also get daily comms on each boss. So daily comms being negligible depending on your gear set or your Kennies, or your kitties, or your companions, or your pets, whatever you want to call them.
You get daily comms on each boss drop.
Yes.
If you stay in the
you stay in the unchanged LFG, if you list yourself for
everything.
Right.
Interesting. I did not know that. I thought you only got the 5 for the daily, and then whatever happens to drops.
If you run the standard 50 mode runs, then you get the comms as a bonus for doing that per day. But if you do the hard modes, and you get the 6 comms per day running that on random. But if you list yourself and you have all of them checked off, you get daily comms off of each one. It's like 1 or 2. I don't remember. It's not a lot, but if you run
Still
enough
helpful.
FPs, if you run enough FPs, eventually it's going to be fucking awesome for you, and you'll be able to get some extra shit.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking at. If you want stuff from the daily vendor, the daily vendor on Corellia, or the daily vendor on Ilum.
There's
little this and that's that you can definitely enjoy.
Right.
Well, that's what I was looking to do. So after I had gotten my mount, I went ahead and did it, but then I got fucking 5 of the same runs. I was in it. I was in it last night, and out of my runs, I did. Was it 3 Battle of Ilum? No, I did. That last night it was. I got 6 runs on Blacktail and hard mode, and 1 Foundry. So by the time I got the Foundry, dude, I was so fucking worn out. The target.
Yeah, you didn't want to. You didn't want to.
You don't want to do a fucking thing.
Foundry is where you meet HK and
Revan
and kill Revan. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, in the overall, that was pretty cool. I had dropped my 3rd profession on Rakat. He used to have, the underworld trading to be able to work with his profession of arms tech.
Right.
Well, I dropped it a long time ago because I was rolling bioanalysis on another character for biochem, and then I dropped it again because I deleted that character. So last night, while I was running my hard modes, I was pay leveling up for slicing, so I could stop having to pay the ridiculous fucking prices on auction house for parts.
Yeah.
And that was the big deal there.
Yeah.
But overall, my week not too bad. The LFG was good. I've really not bought that much in the new Legacy program. There were a couple of things that we're going to talk about after we get through the news. But
I got the droid. I got the first prepare droid because of the ops that we run, and I also got on Zuzu. I ended up buying the first upgraded mount because I got tired of fucking running.
Well, that about covers it for the week, and of course our house cleaning. Give a quick shout out to one of our newer sponsors. That's greengeeks.com for web hosting, 100% free, 100% guilt-free green energy used for their web hosting. I got an email from them recently. They gave us a code that you guys can use. That's GGS 30 off. You'll get $30 off and your any 1, 2, or 3 years shared hosting. service. And well, guys, we're gonna go ahead and put in Sudo segment, and we'll be back in a minute.
Hello everyone, this is Sudo, your Galactic Librarian, with the continuation of Star Wars Lost Tribe of the Sith, Chapter 1, Part 3. Why isn't he dead? Half mesmerized by the streamers of fire erupting outside. At least the Omen was belly down for this bounce. Corson only vaguely grew aware of harsh words to his left. You shouldn't have made the jump, stabbed the young voice. Why isn't he dead? Commander Corson straightened and gave his half-brother an incredulous stare. I know you're not talking to me. Devore Corson jabbed a gloved finger past the commander to a frail man, still jabbing futilely at his control panel and looking very alone. That navigator of yours, why isn't he dead? Maybe he's on the wrong deck. Yaru! It wasn't a joke, of course. Boyle Markham had been guiding Sith ships throughout the weirdness of hyperspace since the middle of Marga Ragnos's rule. Boyle hadn't been at his best in years, but Yaru Corson knew a former helmsman of his father's was always worth having. Not today, though. Whatever had happened back there, it would rightfully be laid at the navigator's feet. But assigning blame in the middle of a firestorm? That was Devore all over. We'll do this later, the elder Corson said from the command chair, if there is a later. Anger flashed in Devore's eyes. Yaru couldn't remember ever seeing anything else there. The pale and lanky Devore little resembled his own ruddy, squat frame, also the shape of their father. But those eyes and that look, those could have been a direct transplant. Their father. He'd never had a day like this. The old spacer had never lost a ship for the Sith Lords. Learning at his side, the teenage Yaru had staked out his own future, until the day he became less enamored of his father's footsteps, the day when Devore arrived. Half Yaru's age, son to a mother from another port on another planet, and embraced by the old admiral without a second thought. Rather than find out how many more children his father had out there to vie for stations on the bridge, Cadet Corson appealed to the Sith Lords for another assignment. That had not been a mistake. In 5 years he had made captain. In 10 he won command of the newly christened Omen over a captain many years his senior. His father hadn't liked that. He'd never lost a ship for the Sith Lords, but he'd lost one to his son. But now losing the Omen was looking like a family tradition. The whole bridge crew, even the outsider Devore, exhaled audibly when rivulets of moisture replaced the flames outside the viewport. Omen had found the stratosphere without incinerating, and now the ship was in a lazy saucer spin through clouds heavy with rain. Corson's eyes narrowed. Water? Is there even a ground? The terrifying thought rippled through the minds of the 7 on the bridge at once as they watched the transparent steel viewport bulge and warp. Gas giant? It took a long time to crash from orbit, presuming you survived re-entry. How much longer if there was no surface? Corson fumbled aimlessly for the controls set in his armrest. Omen would crack and rupture, smothered under a mountain of vapors. They shared the thought, and almost in response, the straining portal darkened. All of you, he said, heads down, and grab something, now! Well, that's it for this week. Tune in next week for Chapter 1, Part 4.
All right, so that was Sudo's segment. I hope you guys enjoyed all of that. Definitely a great read from Sudo. We love the fact that she's sharing a full-on book for you guys, and that book is available on iTunes and Amazon completely free, because it is more or less the equivalent of a short story if you want to read it on your own. But if you just enjoy the wife reading it to you, then the Galactic Librarian will be here for you. She actually recorded that for me last week before she went on her trip, which she should be returning from later today, that being Monday. And I look forward to seeing her because she's got my pierogies and my sandwich. But at this point, we'll go ahead and bring you guys into the news.
Here's your Galactic News. Look what you missed while you were sleeping.
All right, so this week we don't have a ton of news, sadly, because most of the patches were obligatory. They were quick bug fixes. 1.3a gave us group finder items, looking for leaving a group finder group where all members have disconnected will no longer cause players to temporarily be locked out, so you won't be subject to the lockout of 15 minutes if everyone else left the group and you just decide, screw it, I'm leaving the op. Which is good and bad. I honestly, at this point, if you're the last two fucking people, like me and Lanyard, we got pulled into one last night, and we had no clue what was going on. It said it was in progress. Do you want to join? Well, sure, why not? We did one take on the boss. No clue. Lanyard had never been in there before, which was unfortunate for him. And I want to say it was
started with a
wasn't
C,
party. What the fuck?
Or a K or something. It was on Belsavis. That's all I know. I couldn't. That was the only thing.
It was one of the Rat Ghoul
prison.
It was the
place.
It was the Rat Ghoul viral instance.
Then.
Yeah, and Lanyard had never been in there before, so I told him, I said, get on the gun, and if you see rat ghouls or you see mobs, down them. And he was trying to get used to the controls of it, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. We wiped. No big deal, we figured, fine, we'll come back. And this jackass husband and wife, I'm assuming,
husband and wife team.
Yeah, because it was like lady retard and dude retard. And I say retard in the most loving way, because I don't even remember their name, because that's how long we were in group with them. We were in there for like maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they both left fucking group. We got pulled into it. Apparently the guys prior to them got sick of their incompetence and left.
Or vice versa. Something, and they probably just said, you know what, let's call it, kind of like what happened to us on the ops. We pulled that last guy in.
Right.
And all the wipes before were like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. Yeah. And this one was like 30 seconds. Sorry, dude, we're done. Sorry for our quick ops.
They didn't say shit to us. And so me and Lanyard end up in there. They're one boss into the fucking run. And I was like, dude, Lanyard's like, you know what? I think it's time to call it or the night. I've had my full fill of wipes. And, I of course played for several hours more because I always do. But it pissed me off because I had to wait for the 15 minutes because, we were the last two. Yeah. Honestly, if you're the last two in the run, I think it should work that you're not subject to the lockout, because it's unfair to you if you get into a half-ass run and the two half-asses that were in there in the first place book it. Now you're fucked.
Yeah.
And you may have needed that drop. I guess you could carry on. That's me being a QQ Nazi, I guess. I could have carried on and we could have just kept going. But at that point, we had been frustrated from the run and fuck you.
Yeah.
The other
15 minutes isn't that long to wait. Anyway. Yeah. I mean, hell, that's shorter than usually the log times.
Yeah, and at this point, at that point, I was just tired of it anyway. So, but they also have on here that flashpoints and operations will no longer occasionally reset and eject players who have not recently recently used Group Finder for a replacement member. Didn't notice that it didn't have that problem at all. Let's see, ballistic and knockback effects no longer occasionally desync players' location, which could cause characters to not interact properly with the world, such as being able to be hit by melee attacks when a character appeared to be out of range.
Yeah.
Once again, never noticed it.
I've noticed it a couple times.
I haven't PvP'd, get this, I'm Captain PvP, and I haven't PvP'd since 1.3 dropped. At all.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I've just been that entranced with LFG and, being able to play with the new augment things. Quick read on patch 1.3.0b. Augment slots in items crafted before 1.3 that have not manually been upgraded by players are now are now the appropriate tier based on the level of the item. If no augments are installed or the level of the augment is not currently installed in an item slot. I have no fucking clue what that means. I don't read Latin. Once again, if you fucking know, tell me.
Okay, that means before 1.3, augment slots didn't have tiers. They just the augments themselves had levels. So you had an augment slot on your stuff. If the level of the augment was appropriate, then you could put it in your crap. Now that the augment slots have tiers, what that's saying is everything before 1.3 that did not have, they didn't. Wow, I did this so much better explanation on our Facebook page.
If they didn't have augments.
They did. Okay, no. Everything that was that had augment slots before 1.3. After 1.3, those augment slots have been automatically bumped up to the appropriate tier for the level of the gear.
Okay, so
unless
you drop the 50 or 49 augment into the item, it automatically
did that.
It's a slot.
So like if you crit crafted something, or if you got a drop that had an augment on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before it was just an augment slot. Now, if it's like a level 20 augment slot, a level 30 item, that augment slot has been automatically upgraded to be whatever tier level 30 is supposed to be.
Okay.
You follow? Okay. However, if you had an item that had, let's say you had a belt that was crit crafted, and you had put a level 40 augment in there, and you were wearing the belt. After 1.3, that belt's augment slot is automatically updated to the level of the augment to which was placed inside.
So if you put a 40 in there, it would put it at the MK5 slot, not an MK6 slot. And
right. It would move up.
One
right.
Slot. Okay.
Right. So I hope that thoroughly confused everybody. If you are still confused, I did a much better explanation on the Facebook page for this question.
But we did have a Q&A. The Q&A was a little back and forth. I was kind of dumbfounded by it because I was reading through it, and some of it it's kind of funny because they said that months ago that if you didn't have a question based on what was going on in the game currently, then don't ask.
Right.
And oddly enough, the first one out of the gate, it has nothing to do with what's currently in the system.
Well, on top of that, there's five questions.
Yeah, their Q&A this week was shorter than my dick in the winter. But Lasai says, when it comes to the planning content and game direction, how much of it is based on the developer's plan for the game, and how much is based on the community suggestion and feedback? Our old buddy Daniel Erickson was brave enough to field this one for this guy. He says, as we come to the end of our big must-have features, looking for group, updates are driven more and more by the community. Expect to see far more of the smaller quality of life request features, color matching for companions, like the fucking gear thing that where your gear's all jacked up on the companion.
Minor shit.
Yeah, chat bubbles, etc. Start to get real traction under them in the near future, which means that some of the things that people bitch about, the minute things that everybody aims to stack into a whole to keep the game from sounding awesome, now they're going to start addressing these smaller issues. RPers are going to be able to get chat bubbles. People like you and I are like, my companion's gear looks like complete shit, but mine looks okay.
Mako looks like a clown, but hey.
Oh, my Mako looks like an imperial dancer.
Well,
so
my Mako looks
care.
like my Mako's all dressed up in ricotta, so she's pretty snazzy looking.
Yeah, but it's ricotta. I see those all the time. I hate to say it, I do. In LFG, I saw them on a regular basis. Yeah, well. Now, the next one, of course, Cell Cardro. He actually has one that I like and that we
Yeah.
were discussing last week. He says, what are your long-term
Ah,
plans for implementing playable species? Are the Cathar merely the first of a semi-regular species addition? Daniel once again pops his head in and says, like all of our ongoing content updates, we'll release the Cathar into the wild and see how they perform.
yay!
If new species are clearly popular, we'll keep them coming. So
I saw.
everybody, hit the fucking forums and blast them with any retarded race you want. And the only thing I will say is, don't expect every one of the races
Right.
to get gear that
Jeez.
makes sense.
Well, that
Or
and don't
gear
expect
that's
every race. There's just
yeah.
way too many. I mean, you can imagine scrolling through, and you've only got 8 slots. It's like,
Well, there's something like 150 races in the overall of SWTOR lore.
yeah,
So
wow, that would be amazing.
that would be
That
damn
would be a
ridiculous.
developer nightmare trying to
But
get all that gear to fit.
the one thing I will say to keep in mind is a lot of people they seem to be amused with the non-humanoid races,
Yeah.
which from a developer standpoint charges you with a massive problem with adapting gear to every race. And while we said before that WoW did a fairly good job in the overall, by technicality, every race that they used was humanoid. It was based on a human-based structure.
What are you talking about non-humanoid? You're talking like somebody wants to be a blob or a
Well,
lizard or something?
if someone wanted to be a hut,
Oh,
that would be a sentient being, but not a humanoid.
why the hell would you want to be a hut?
I've seen the fucking dude. You need to go through the forums if you want to.
Really?
I'm dead serious.
Why
There
the
were
hell
people
would you
asking
want to
why
be
they
a
couldn't
hut?
be a hut. Why they, there was one guy and I wanted to slap. I wanted to slap him straight off the forum page. I remember there was actually someone who asked to be one of the Jar Jar races, whatever the Jar Jar race is.
Oh yeah. Don't
Jar Jar is the most hated of the races.
Yeah, Ewoks had it for a while, but thank God Jar
Jar
took it back.
Jar Jar jumped in the fray, and the Ewoks were quickly forgotten as
Well,
being
he's still humanoid.
Yeah, but fuck, why would you want that?
Why would you want that?
Retards.
Gundars.
Let's see. Gundars? Oh, is that what the
and speaking of which, we kept trying to shit.
Oh yeah, your race you couldn't think of last week.
Sand people. Tuscan Raiders. That's what they're technically called.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, well, we've got the gear, but I think if they're going to include new races and whatever they choose, the most important thing, in all honesty, for me, isn't the race in and of itself. It's changing the starting zones and the coordinating planets. If you introduce the Cathar and another race, whether they're equal to be Imperial or Republic, regardless of their faction alignment, as long as they have a new start zone,
right?
Or if they do a class, because my biggest problem right now with re-rolling a character is seeing the same stuff. Because I've played every class, not to 50, but I've played just about every class regardless. So I would like to see a little bit of uniqueness. We don't have to necessarily incorporate a new class and race. What I would like to see is if they're going to throw a species or two out there, let's give them a new starter planet.
Yeah.
Maybe we start on the Cathar homeworld. That would be something entrancing because that draws a player to make it, not just because of the feigned version of uniqueness, because once it comes out, it's not going to be unique. There's going to be thousands of people jumping in, and I'm going to make a Cathar. I'm going to be a first Cathar to 50. And
I was just visualizing the Cathar homeworld. It's got like
milk saucers everywhere.
Yeah, it's got like little milk saucers. And it's got those cat hotels. They're built like they got scratch poles everywhere. All the trees are all.
Wow, dude, we're not going to be infant Cathar.
Their fucking arena has like balls on a string.
Make it through the training ground. Hit the hoop. Oh my god. What the fuck is wrong with you? I would like to see.
Speaking of that, when they introduce this, do you think they're going to make You know what they're gonna do? I know what they're gonna do though. Hey, the Cathar race is coming. The Cathar race, everybody's gonna be stoked. You know, they're gonna be saving slots. Like, oh, the Cathar race is coming. Then they drop it on us, right? And they say, so where's this Cathar race? Well, if you go into your legacy, you can purchase it for 5.5 million. Oh,
Well,
that pissed me off.
but see, that's what that's one of the things. Like, if I mean, you can purchase any race through that, and but if they're going to introduce more races, I'd like to see more starter planets, or intermediary planets. For me, there's got to be a divergence in the storytelling, so that there's a real compelling reason to play. A lot of players at this point have tried rolling, most of the 8, if they're alt inclined, have rolled, races, and they've rolled the different the different classes, probably maybe even all of them. I know I've done pretty much all of them. If you do the parallel missions as well, like, if you're a Sork, you do a Consular. If you did that, then the play style in and of itself is similar, but the worlds look different. So you may have experienced it just so you could go down each story.
The storyline's different too,
right? Yeah. And I, if you're making a Cathar, do you honestly want to go back to Tython? Do you really want to start off on Hutta? Just because that's where and of course, from the storyline perspective, I guess this would make it really hard on the writers. But if they could incorporate a similar storyline on other planets, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the Cathar's got to have a different backstory. I mean, they've got to have a different backstory. They've got to have something that's related specifically to them.
Right.
Of course, they don't really have race missions.
Right.
So, like, if you're doing a Twi'lek on Tython, it's the same class story as the Marillion and the human. And
well, have you played? One of the things when you're, I want to say it was on possibly my agent. Yeah, it was my agent. When I made my first agent, she was a female. And she, of course, got deleted. There were different storyline cues because of your race.
Oh,
your
different
class,
responses
or
from
your
the
sexuality.
Different responses from the person. Yeah, so basically the same storyline, but the responses were based on what you were like. So, for instance, if you were a True Blood Sith on Korriban, you got treated with respect. However, if you were pretty much
moniker or more,
if you were pretty much anything else, you were just a slave.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the writing comes in handy. If the writers can come up with a slightly different spin on it, I mean, every bounty hunter is going to go in, and every bounty hunter is going to see the same actions. But when I played the agent, there's a point where you're pretending to be someone you're not.
The red something or other.
Yeah, and
you're talking. I know what you're getting at.
When you're interacting with the first that guy there, he's like, oh well, if you're him, then he owes me money, so I guess you owe me money. And as a dude, you either kill him or pay him.
Okay.
As a chick, you can kill him
or fuck him,
pay him, you can screw him. Right. So I'm just saying it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful. I think to have a new starter planet to be able to work off of would be enlightening and enjoyable for an alcoholic like myself.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Though they'll never address me because they don't like answering my tweets or my forum posts.
They've got you blocked.
Yeah, they probably do by now.
Hey, at least you have some followers. You know who I've got one follower.
That's me. Wait, am I following you?
I'm like, why am I even posting anything anymore?
But we do have a few more questions that we're going to go through here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nerdbird. Yeah, I'll go with Nerdbird.
Yeah, Nerdbird.
Nerdbird says people are always disappointed when you lose a tiebreaker in the Void Star match, as though it was incorrectly judged. Any chance you could clarify the tiebreaker rules for us? A new dude steps up to the plate. Rob Hinkle. He says, excellent question. We've actually gone through a series of adjustments to improve this very system. As of 1.3, here is how a winner is determined in Void Star. There are 6 checkpoints inside the war zone. The 3 sets of blast doors, the bridge in the reactor room, the force fields in the cargo room, and the data core itself. The team that gets furthest wins the war zone. If both teams get to the checkpoint when then whichever team gets to that checkpoint quickest wins. When the war zone figures out one team has already won the match since they are the second team on the attack, have exceeded the opponent's progress, or have gotten to the same spot faster, the match will end immediately instead of playing out the rest of the game to a known end. Unrelated to the tiebreaker changes, but also exciting, we've made a change to the hangar inside Voice Star to help prevent stalemates inside the first room. We've added a broken fence down a portion of the middle of the room, which obstructs movement, but not vision. The intended result is that defenders have to commit to defend one side or the other and cannot float between the doors quite so easy. Now, Lanyard, I think you actually got to check that out when we went to the live show, right?
Yep. Yeah, I started out on the offensive side.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the fence it's handy. But, again, like most MMOs do that I've ever played, they went overboard. So basically, the first door is a non-starter. If you're defending it, you choose a side to defend, and the other team goes. The other side goes right through. If you are on the offensive, you basically jump down to the first box there that you jump straight down, and then you just watch the defending team figure out which side they fell to and go to the other side and go right through. It's if you're trying to it's interesting, but the damn fence. I hate to say it, the damn fence is too long. Now, see, when they didn't have the fence at all, it was like there was no fucking way you could get through the door. Well, I shouldn't say there's no fucking way. If you were going up against a real shit team, you could go through. Right. But it took some effort to get through the front doors. But 9 times out of 10, it was defendable, and there's just no way you're gonna get through. So they put the fence in so that you have to walk all the way around to defend. Okay, fine. But they made the fence so fucking long that it's like by the time you get to the end of the fence, either the other side's gone through or they're killing you just as you get to the end of the fence because they can just sit there on top and pop you before they even drop down. Duh. Shorten the fence about one length. That would make it a little easier. I understood the point of the fence because that was great because it was too close. So the first door is just like boom, boom, right through, and then the battle begins. And the other thing that they were saying on the whole, I mean, I've known this fucking shit since the beginning. That's when they first said how they're gonna do wins. It's whoever gets through a checkpoint first, quicker, or gets through that checkpoint. So in the unlikely event that nobody gets through the front doors, especially now, that would be the only tiebreaker that I would have to figure out. Yeah. Because they're always going to get through the front door. You get through the front door, okay, that's checkpoint 1. You get to the where you're opening the bridge, that's check 2. You get the bridge open, checkpoint 3. You get the next door open, checkpoint 4. You get to the next guy and drop the shields, checkpoint 5. You get to that door, checkpoint 6. You get to the datacron or the data core. And it's over. Okay, so that's checkpoint 7. So then the next team goes through, and if they get all the way, they've got to hit checkpoint 1, no problem. Okay, checkpoint 2, they got to get to checkpoint 2, which is the opening the bridge, faster than the previous team did.
Well, and it works for speeding the match up.
I hate Void Star anyway, so the quicker I'm out of there, the better.
This is true. Well, and Void Star for me was always an oddball one. I mean, I like bombing runs in shooters, but in this one, it was kind of a pain in the ass. I think it helps for people who were pissed off they never got past door 1.
This is true. So now they can see door 2.
Yeah, they can see door. Well, they can see their way to door 2.
Right.
Assuming
Well, that's the other thing.
Stopped.
If you can kill all your you get the other team into the part where you're opening the bridge.
Yeah.
And you can just like annihilate the other team. Just stand there. Don't open the bridge. Because they're on the other side. They can't do shit.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, I don't think the fence was that bad of an idea. No, I haven't played it, like I said, on the live servers. I played it on the test realms.
Yeah.
And on the test servers, I found it to be helpful because if you choose, what it really started off was, it basically ended up with a stalemate at the beginning where people were wasting time trying to figure out where to go. So if you had a plan together, defending or either defending or attacking, you could actually stand at the end of the fence and kill them as they came out of spawn.
Yep.
Which is a completely different technique, which is
called camping the graveyard.
Well, yeah, well, whatever. But it gives you an option. You can have 2 people stand at either door. The rest of the team gangs up at the front. Everybody gets their points, and you have the opportunity. And it's over faster if you can hold them back long enough. Because with that split in the door, if you killed the other team, they're fucked. You can at least get through a door and make some time up.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have 2 more questions here. Tommy Sue says, how does expertise affect healing in PvE environments, like operations, for instance? If all players are flagged for PvP, will heals they receive get expertise bonus? If not, what prevents it?
Just give the short answer.
Tamasu, expertise is for PvP only.
Yep.
Austin Peckinpah, your old buddy, says expertise counters the negative effects of PvP trauma. The debuff applied when engaging in combat with enemy players. It is not in any way associated with flag status.
Right.
So if you're not fighting an opponent, fighting someone from the other faction, it doesn't freaking work.
Right. Now, I had to discuss this with I think it was Frez on the complications, because at first when I read that, I was like, okay, so it doesn't work in PvE environments.
Right.
We discussed it, and so I was thinking, okay, so world PvP it wouldn't work. Right. However, when we read it again, I was now I understand that if you are a healer and you're in a world position, say Ilum or Corellia or wherever, and you are with a buddy, and your buddy has engaged the enemy as far as another player, he is taking PvP trauma.
Right.
So therefore, his PvP effects are working against the enemy player. If you are, as a healer, start to heal the PvP player that is in trauma, your healing will work. Your healing expertise will work.
Well, yeah,
as long as he is taking PvP trauma. Now, if he it gets attacked by an NPC, and as he's battling the this is where it gets a little confusing. So if he's battling an NPC while he's battling the player, which most pubs can't kill Sith, so they have to bring in NPCs to help. They every time if you heal while he's attacking the NPC, it's not working, unless the PvP player is killing him. If he kills the PvP player and has to finish off the NPC, then your expertise has. Don't worry about it, dude. Just throw shit at him. Just heal the fucker.
Yeah. The long story short is, if you're going to do ops,
and ops it won't work.
If you're going to do ops, and you're going to be healing, PvP gear on the high end is worthwhile to use. However, if you don't PvP. Or you want the most out of your heals, actual PvE gear works better. Rakat is a perfect example. His damage has nearly doubled since I started swapping out his PvE for PvP gear, or PvP for PvE gears.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be doing shit in the world environment, wear the PvE gear. Don't wear expertise. Focus on your primary stats and your complementary stats.
Now you can mismatch if you're looking if you're constantly in areas where you're going to be engaging the player enemy, but focus on what you focus on. Like for instance, Corellia and stuff. I mean, it's a bitch. Yeah. So I mean, you can throw like a couple things in there if it helps, but basically the long of the short of it is it's no. It doesn't work on a PvE environment.
And if you're running ops, you should be in raid appropriate gear.
Absolutely.
Once again, PvP gear is a good start, not a good finish.
No.
So just don't fucking worry about how
you in the
expertise. Expertise, you know what expertise does for your healing? Nothing. Fucking get good gear. Yep. All right, so last fucker on here actually has a question that we wanted to address in the show, so it's a plus. Kipper says, my question is, are you still considering some sort of dual talent option? And if so, what's the ETA? Austin comes back with, this is definitely a feature that we hope to provide in the future, but we don't have details to share at this time, including the ETA.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm perfectly happy with that. We didn't expect them really to drop a dual spec option in anytime right away. Dual spec, by and large, based on this game, is actually more annoying than it sounds because you have a normal potential of 4 particular trees, unless you're, say, a sniper, or not a sniper, I know there's at least 1 or 2 that, well, you can either heal or you can DPS, or you can tank and you can DPS. Yeah. It's pretty much your only options.
Yeah.
And that's by choosing your specialization.
Yeah.
And once you've chosen that, now you're relegated to either heal or DPS, or tank and DPS.
The thing about that is when they introduced that in WoW, I thought, oh, this is great. And it became such a pain in the ass because not only did you have, well, in WoW they had it to where you just pop back and forth. That was, you didn't have to screw with talent trees and all that other stuff. But the thing is now, okay, so I'm going from healer to DPS. Okay, I got to go through my bag. I gotta pull out my. Oh wait, I've switched over, but I'm wearing the wrong gear, so now I got to go back and I got to get my gear, or I got to carry it around in my bag. And then they had this, and they had the same thing in Rift. But that way, they introduced it that way. But Rift had multiple changes. I mean, you could keep buying slots, so where you could have like 16 different options, and that was a fucking nightmare to figure out what you wanted. On Star Wars, like you said, if you pick Bounty Hunter, for instance, and you're a power tech, now in that power tech tree, you have tank, DPS, DPS, which one's better for PvP and the other one's better for PvE. And then if you pick the healing tree, you're heal, PvP, PvE. That's your choices. So if you were to do dual spec, are these nut jobs talking about I want to be heals and I want to be tank, or do I want to be heals and DPS?
Well, that's just it. You couldn't be one. You couldn't be a healer tank.
Right, because
you're not a fucking paladin. It's not going to happen. It's two totally different trees.
Right, it's a totally different trees. That's why I'm saying, are people wanting to be able to do back and forth? Like I'm gonna queue for a healer and I'm gonna queue for a tank. Okay, I'm a healer, so I go ahead and swap my stuff out, and Torin's wearing my healing gear, so I can just pull it off of him. Because that's what's great about Kenny's is that you can put your PvP or your secondary gear on them if you don't ever use them. Like Galt wouldn't be able to wear it, but you know what I mean. So the other thing that I want to say about that is in a way they already have that in your legacy, because you can purchase the talent tree switch to where you can switch your talents in field. So I don't really I don't know. I don't like the and this is so yeah.
But yeah, you can buy the respec tool. The last time I read it, now you were arguing with me earlier about it, but you can buy the respec tool in Legacy, but I don't find that to be that great of an investment because it actually still costs to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you want to carry the rest of the gear around, and you think that your gear for whatever your normal spec, your main spec is is going to be appropriate, or if you do decide to put it on your Kenny, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
If
but you get a free
then it's
one
kinda
every
fucked up.
week. You get a free one every week. So
like I said, if you fucking run, all your ops and you decide with your raid leader that halfway through your ops you're going to go ahead and flip, then that's fine, I guess. But after a while, it gets to be a little bit cumbersome. It's not if they lower the cost of respec or with the adjunct of dual spec, they give you the ability to pull your respec out of your ass as you choose to. I still think there should be some kind of cooldown on it. Maybe 5-10 minutes between between bosses. Then I guess that would be appropriate. But I don't like the idea of being able to respec at random.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about it is, oh, there goes that train again.
But I mean, there's a lot of stuff with respecing that's questionable. In World of Warcraft, when they introduced that, a lot of the people who really hated on it were the ones that were saying that you chose to play a character and play a role that, in an RP sense at the very least, that you have dedicated yourself to that role.
Right.
Naga Jalokia, I would like to occasionally DPS, but her spec is built and her gear is built so that she can do heals and heals only. Yeah. I would like to DPS, but that's also why I have alts.
Oh, I remember.
If I want to DPS, I have Rakat.
I remember
what ones you have.
I was going to say that at the beginning of the Q&A, it said something about or maybe it was in Q&A. We're done with the heavies, the heavy stuff, the heavy lifting, looking for group and stuff for now. Right now, we're working on the small stuff, and I would imagine that dual specking would be a heavy. So it's going to be way down the road, probably closer to 2.0 or something.
I think when they get a better feel of exactly what the community is expecting out of it, that's when they'll make the change. No sooner, no later. But we're going to move away from the news, obviously. We don't have an outro for the news, which we eventually will invent, I guess. But like I said, I did post something asking people what their input was on 1.3. And we did have a few people, not a bunch, not as many as I was hoping, but a few people. A lot of the issue was, with 1.3, they noticed that queue timers were fucking ridiculous. And for some of you, it was. For me, it was
45 minutes.
I log in early enough on my days off that I get in before the heavy weight comes on and causes massive waits. On my days, the days that I work, I get on late enough that it doesn't make a difference. There's still 300 or 400 people on any given server. Last night I logged off, 5 in the morning, Central Standard, and there were still 2 fleets. There were like 98 people on one and 250 on another. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. But Chris Edgerton weighs in with the good. The game actually does run smoother for the most part. I was actually able to turn up the settings and only lose a few frames per second. I now get comms for being queued with randoms. The looking for group is great when you are building alts, and everyone in your guild is level 10 levels too high for that mission. Now the GTN is cross-faction. You might actually use it. He says the bad side. I literally tried an hour for BP normal. BP, which one is that?
BP?
BP normal. I don't know. It says BP normal, despite there being over 240 people on fleet, and that's assuming per shard. It says the one time I did queue up was in war zones and was kicked for being kicked by other members. Then I had to wait 20 minutes despite being at the top of the queue. I still got pulled in. I still did not get pulled in. So long story short, LFG is great when it works quickly like it should, but you are still at the mercy of luck more often than not. And then, of course, he says, and come join us, Moral Compass, on the Imperial side of the Shadowlands server. All are welcomed. Let's see who else here. Oh, yeah, it's really about queue times, man. That seems to be the big things. David Schwartz says he's on the Fat Man server, as we have been on other characters. but it looks like the biggest problem right now is wait times. With dozens of people on the servers, it's a wonder why we're not getting queues faster. I don't know if like in WoW, it was based on your chosen where you chose to be. Like if you were a healer or a tank or DPS, healers tended to get more queues. Healers and tanks got more queues faster than DPS would because there was just an abundance of them. One thing that one thing that we did say last show though was that if you're going to do it, make sure you were queuing for specific that you were queuing, and if you did have your queue checked, make sure that only the boxes for what you wanted to go were, because it did it by priority. And I haven't seen any notes that would offer up any difference to that. So we'll assume that it's still the way that we originally figured and no different.
I don't know. That BP must have been boarding party.
Boarding party? Okay.
Flashpoint. I had to.
Oh, fuck! I knew that one.
I had to Wikipedia it.
But because I like I said, I got into 5-6 runs right off the bat. I've been doing my dailies and jumping in LFG every day. And my biggest complaint right now, of course, is the fact that for me, I would like to see the queue pop and be more random about what we go into. But presumably there were people like me working on getting their mounts, and they were like, well, I just need Black Talon, and Black Talon never pops, so I'm going to choose Black Talon. Fuck you guys.
Well, I had the same issue with WoW. You kept just doing the same one over and over. And over. Because I think that has to do with the level of the community.
Yeah.
It's the level of the community. So like you were doing Ilum back to back to back. That's because there were so many fresh 50s. That hadn't done Ilum. So,
at least that was what we can presume. Now, the one thing I will say that definitely held up the queue, I think, is the fact that people are still intent on using general chat for it.
Yeah.
And that really kills me.
Oh.
I don't understand why people have the propensity to continually use LFG strictly for the purpose of being able to run or using general chat, strictly for the purpose of running randoms. If you want to queue for a specific one, just put yourself in LFG and be done with it. The only problem I have right now is because of my merc spec, I occasionally get queued as heals when I'm not.
Do you unmark the heals?
Yes, but the problem is the looking for group doesn't remember that. Oh. So if you log out and log back in,
you have to do that every time. Just make sure.
And in some cases, I've had to do it 2 or 3 times, and I stayed on the character.
Yeah.
So there are some obvious bugs with LFG. I see a lot more people running around with repair bots, which makes me happy. Mm-hmm. I see a lot more people running around with mail bots that I don't care about because I don't need it.
I don't do that. I don't do auction or GTN enough to worry about mail.
But there was a lot of stuff that was fun. It's nice to see that they've incorporated. It's nice to see LFG. It's nice to be able to see all the content. It's nice to be able to see people. And as far as the server weight goes, 2 things to remember. One, server weight is going to be a little bit ridiculous for right now because there's a lot of people that left the game because they wanted to have an MMO feel to their game. Well, now everybody's back on the servers, and LFG is there, and a lot of people were looking and waiting to see what would happen with LFG and ranked war zones. So when you go on now, the people that were waiting on the functionality that is now in the game are there trying to flesh it out, trying to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, Kevin came back for a little bit. He played for a little bit. And I don't think he was as entranced with LFG as he was hoping. Mm-hmm. So he's still taking a sidebar on the game for now. Mm-hmm. Myself, I'm still just as entranced as I ever was.
Yeah, I still enjoy the game. The only thing that I don't like is the weight queues, but I've got a way to work around that. So the other thing about when I first started to bitch to you about the wait times, you said, "Oh, don't worry, it's gonna It's going to go down because people will leave again. Well,
Yeah.
I would hope not, because the whole idea of 1.3 was to bring people back to stay.
Right.
So if they stay, then the fucking login times are going to be long. And I know it sounds funny, but there are people that will quit because they don't want to wait 30 minutes to get into a game.
Yeah.
And
And
so
really, the
thing
waits
that
haven't really been 30 minutes. Have you actually?
Yeah.
Had a,
Yeah. The other night I logged in. Well, it was a Saturday, so that's
Okay.
understandable, and
Prime
it was
time.
prime time, so that's understandable. But it was a 45-minute wait, dude. We also had a problem with the fact that when we were in the middle of that Denova run, our healer DC'd. Okay,
Yeah.
happens, right? Especially if you got a
Mhm.
shitty connection or the tree falls on your house.
Yeah.
So, but when he got back in, he's back in vent, and we're like,
Yeah.
okay, dude. So you log him back in. He's like, yeah, I got a 45-minute wait. So now we got to sit there in that ops for 45 minutes to wait for our
Yeah.
healer to get back. I mean, that's fucking retarded. So what do? We plugged the healer, you know, and you know he's out of it because of the login times.
Right.
My biggest issue is the fact that I said it before. MMOs have a tendency to go overboard when they respond to their customer base. They people will bitch about people bitched about being on empty servers. A legitimate bitch, okay? So what do? Instead of saying, okay, fine, we're going to go ahead and condense a few of these servers and get everything. No, they just said, oh, we're going to pick 2 servers and smash you all onto that. Stupid. What the fuck, you know? Get it to where you have your subscription base is to a heavy and then stop and then move on, because now anybody that starts the game is going to be adding to an already overbooked server.
Well,
what kind of fucking
see,
moronic idea was that?
I still think that what they did was they took a sledgehammer to remove a fly.
Yeah, that's
and
what
what's
I'm
going
saying.
to end up happening is, in the long run, they're going to reopen based on need. They're going to reopen a few servers. Or
Well, the other thing that can happen is we do what we did before server transfers. Voluntarily, everybody moved to Fatman, and Fatman got busy, right? So these other servers are still open.
Yeah.
You can do, everybody's, you know what, fuck it, I'm going back to Port Nowhere. And you just grab a group of people and you go back to Port Nowhere. Well, you can't go back to Port Nowhere unless you re-roll. But they've got to do something, because heavy is enough.
I think they don't need
to put 300 people on a plane that only holds 150.
I think the over-under is that what's going to end up happening is they're going to end up going from the super heavy servers or the full servers and splitting those in half, more or less.
Or they're going to have to work on figuring out how to increase the population so there's not such a big wait time. I don't mind waiting 15, 20 minutes to play with people.
They have the availability for it, because going to super server, as you said, you had up to 5 shards on the fleet.
Right.
So at that point, it will require, and God, okay, guys, this is the boring part where I talk about tech. They're going to have to record the. They're going to have to up the memory on their servers so that they can afford to do larger than their current super server.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it'll allow for more sharding and allow for people to get in quicker.
Yeah.
As to whether or not that will be a complete success, of course, there's always the chance it won't be. If they do up the memory so that the world as a whole can handle more people, then we'll be fine. With so many people coming back and seeing the persistent universe, seeing that they have tons of people that they can play with, it does work out.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, even though we get on fleet and there's 5 shards and each shard has like 300 to 400 people on it, it's still pretty smooth. I haven't had too much issue with any lag.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. That's fine.
I occasionally have some server latency issues when it comes to mailbox, but that's about it.
Oh yeah, mailbox, or I'll jump up on my speeder and my speeder's not there. Big deal. But I'm not saying I'm just irritated with the fact that even though I might wait 45 minutes to log on, I don't want to have to wait. I don't like the idea of losing somebody in your ops and then sitting around. I mean, our ops already take forever. We don't want to wait for a key person because of a DC. Also, you don't want to. You feel bad because now that guy's been DC'd, and you're like, well, fuck you, dude. We're pugging you because we want to move on. Well, that guy can't finish the game. That's got to annoy people. I don't. The 45-minute initial log on, big deal. I'm not complaining because I do enjoy playing with people. I love being in the middle of frickin' nowhere planet, and I see people all over the place, which is great. But it's just that login issue. Now, if they fix it to where if maybe you were, I don't know if they could do that. Like if you got logged out, a DC log out, that it would like hold your spot for like 2 minutes or something like that. I don't know if that's possible.
I think that would present some programming issues.
Yeah.
I agree. If you got kicked off the game because your internet went down, it's not your fault technically.
Yeah.
And it would suck balls if that happened to me personally.
Yeah.
But once again, it's unfortunately the gambit you run. Yeah. I mean, they did go a little overboard, but when 90% of the people that were were on that server the day we got transferred, everyone's like, yeah, there were like 15 people. Well, there were 15 people there, but the other side of the server had a bunch of people, and then everybody comes back for 1.3. Like we were playing right after they had did the patches, they had transferred everybody over, and everybody got their announcement. Oh, it's time to move. Let's pack your shit and let's go. And everybody came over. We were only seeing 2 shards at that point of any given planet or even the Imperial fleet.
Right.
When they launched 1.3, suddenly we're seeing 5 shards. So that's a drastic amount of people that suddenly said, well, fuck, I want to play again.
Right.
And I don't think they were expecting that.
Yeah.
I do not think they had thought that out too freely, and I think that's what ended up leading to it. Because could you imagine had they done that transfer, then done 1.3, and had less, then you would have still, after all those people transferred over, you wouldn't have had to wait because there'd only be 1 shard. There'd still be 300 people on fleet.
Right.
And at that point, LFG still ceases to be 100% effective. So, I don't know. Hopefully they'll get that shit worked out. I did want to take a moment here since we're in a dry spell before we hit anything else. I wanted to make sure I did do the random winner for our free audiobook from Audible. And free is a relative term. It's free because I'm going to give it to someone and take it out of my pocket. And I use the random picker on .com. That's all, folks. No, that's not all, folks. I did use a random number picker to choose our random winner for this week, being our 20th episode, and I got Tammy Nilsson Moore. I'm going to have a link on our website so everybody can see that one. It's 100% legitimate. I didn't screw around. I took every person who was on our friends list or on our like list from Facebook, put it in the random generator, and it chose her name out of that. So congratulations, Tammy Nilsson Moore. I'll be contacting you on Tuesday, my off day at my real job, and getting an email that I can send your gift to. And remember, I'm sending out the SWTOR book, so go ahead and stop by Audible if you don't already have an account, and make sure you find one that you like, and I'll be happy to gift that to you this week.
Congratulations, Tammy.
Indeed. Now, we did have a little bit of a fuck you moment.
Oh, that one.
we were going to our videos, and we've been posting with TGN RPG, and they had downgraded from TGN SWTOR, and I've been having a little trouble. I've got to contact them and find out who I'm supposed to talk to now about getting our videos up, because I never posted episode 19 to the actual TGN website. I did, however, do it on our Sith Talk site through our Sith Talk at YouTube website. So Sith Talk has been posting the videos with the TGN logos for the time being until we decide what we're going to do with that. And I got to call TGN RPG. We don't make any money off of the videos. So posting the videos for you guys is more or less our way of letting people on YouTube view it or those of you who listen to our podcast that want to check out the visual version of it and be able to see us playing the game while we shoot the shit about the game itself,
right.
Or for that matter, post up the books that books or links that Sudo reads for her Galactic Librarian, our little cutaways for the news, things like that, so you guys can get a more visual feel like you're watching TV and shit.
Right.
But I was going through episode 18, and I know we had some audio issues. Because I'm running quite a bit on the computer. We run Pamela for recording Skype. We run Skype. We normally run Uvu, which we're not doing this week. Then, of course, there's the web pages I open. Then there's XSplit, all the audio files that go into that. And for anyone who's done a video version of a podcast or done video streaming, you're aware of how much stuff runs. And a lot of comments. I don't mind. I definitely, anybody who has the availability to give me hints or tips on getting this done, I'll be happy to contact. You can contact me on Skype at Datacar and send me a message. I'll be happy to share my build with you, and you can give me any tips you might have to help me utilize my system better. However, there was one fucker who apparently thinks he's God's gift to everything. Although, looking at his page, I could give 2 squirts of piss.
Oh, he's got a page.
I'm going to read this little troll's fucking comment. I don't get very angry on the podcast, assuming I don't get into it with my co-host or have a really shitty week. But this little prick, he says, not going to lie, you guys were the worst. Were the worst on TGN SWTOR, but now I feel like I need to watch you since everyone else despaired, but it was a great show. Now, if he'd have started off, it was a great show, but, and then followed some of that, I could have dealt with it. I could have lived with it. I could have just sucked up my fucking pride and gone on. I'm not trying to throw my dick out and say that anybody else on TGN SWTOR was better or was any worse or better than we were.
Everybody's got their own perks. Their own
and
special
I'm perfectly
way of doing
fine
things.
with opinions that make any sense whatsoever. But do not refer to me as the bottom of the bucket. And say, this was a good show.
This was a good show, but you were shit.
Yeah, listen. I can understand things, that comment was from the Battle Ready Jawa.
The Battle Ready Jawa.
You can Jawa my balls. Aiden here, or Aiden55, left a reasonable comment. I appreciate this guy. He says, love the show, guys, but this episode was laggy and choppy. Wasn't like that in previous episode. Whoever's recording, please turn off your porn torrents, etc. And to Adian, I say thank you. I'm not downloading porn. I just think that my system, I did find out my hard drive was horridly segmented, and a lot of files were fucked up. So, that was something that was on my side, and hopefully I can, maybe work some money into my computer and be able to record a little easier. But, I was even accommodating to the people who first and seconded. I was fine with that. To say that we're the bottom of the barrel, but we're doing good now, really confuses me. I'm not a stupid person, but for fuck's sake, we bring, out of what I've seen, without being critical of other podcasts, from what I've seen, what I listen to, and just like we've always done, we listen to several other SWTOR podcasts.
Get ideas, make sure we're not copycatting and stuff like that. Yeah.
Copycat. Well, we also are free to throw our hat in the ring and tell people about other podcasts if we find them enjoyable.
Exactly.
Scott Johnson has been a premier podcaster for a long time. He doesn't post on YouTube that I'm aware of, but he does do his live streaming in cooperation with other podcasts, and he throws his stuff up. And Scott's been in the business for years.
Yeah,
so
we're all working.
Is uber.
Right.
We're 20 episodes in. We haven't even cracked our first year. We're nowhere near 100, and we are the furthest thing from making a shit ton of money. Scott is the bomb and always has been. But really, there are points where everyone has a down show. And I'm down with that. Battle Ready, buddy. really, you've got a lot of episodes here, but you've been doing this shit just as long as we have, so you, sir, can suck my nuts. And, I've read every comment, good or bad, on the podcast because I appreciate feedback. But feedback that pretty much says fuck you and then whatever. Okay, I'm going to stop doing that because it's just going to be really, really evil.
Here's a little hint to the FYI to the listeners and stuff. Don't troll the troll.
Yeah, no
you
shit.
will fail.
Yeah, I troll. I am a professional troll in my games, so I don't take kindly to bullshit remarks.
Oh, but hey, Jawa,
what's up?
Battle Jawa. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks. Always happy for another listener, or apparently viewer who thinks we're shit.
Well, okay. So moving on, moving on to the next. So we did mention the fact that we're putting these on the Sith Talk channel now,
right?
As we'll probably be going that route. So listen to our previous episode, our 1 through 15 on TGN SWOTAR, our 16 through 19, probably 20 on TGN RPG, and then pretty much anything after that's going to be on
TBA.
Yeah, and now to be announced. But I think you're in the process of moving over our previous doing a copy and putting our previous episodes on Sith Talk as well, right? So that we got all loaded up in that one spot.
I'm going to do a generic conversion. I'm going to take the gameplay footage as I record it and put our audio below it, or underneath it, and just post it up that way. It's going to be a quick fix to what will hopefully end up being irregularity, where I post in tandem on Sith Talk's website as well, or on Sith Talk's section, as well as posting it on the TGN network, at least until I get some conversations done with them.
Okay.
Because Kevin, like I said, was supposed to be doing the mediating on that, but since Kevin's taking a break from posting on YouTube altogether, we'll see what happens.
Right.
Let's see what else. I know we had something else. Oh, so apparently when 1.3 launched, I made a stupid proclamation that cost Lanyard tons of fucking cash.
You bastard. Yeah.
Well, my misunderstanding, and when I went to now, if you haven't played with the augments yet, and I don't think I said too much about how to use them because I hadn't played with them on the PTS in our last episode. If you use the augment table, obviously, because I made a complete fucking ass of myself and made you spend money. You got if you want to augment your gear and you choose to add augment, there is a drop down just above that area where it allows you to choose augments MK1 through MK6. MK6 being if you're a 50 and putting it on your rating or PvP gear. Whereas I thought initially that you had to do MK1 through 6 and install them one at a time.
Upgrading each individual one.
Which is completely fucking wrong.
Yes.
And so Lanyard was a bit dismayed. And the best part is he finds out about it before I do. And we hadn't talked yet this week about it. And I was like, dude, I'm such a fucking idiot. So I went to the augment table and I saw this drop down and I hit MK6 and it just went boom straight to the MK6. And he's like, yeah. I know.
No shit. What's a couple $100,000 between friends?
No shit, right?
And like half of my mats.
Well, and even worse than that, I was doing dailies just to make the augments, and I'm thinking, oh god, this is going to take forever because you got to get 15 augment slots and you got to get 15 of this, and then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to augment every one of these, and then I discovered the drop down. Like, I'm sorry, Lane.
Which is why when you were first discussing that, I was like, I don't understand why you would have to do that, and then you're just like, oh no, you've got to do it that way. I'm like, okay, so instead of me being a dumbass and testing against his theory, I just said, okay. So I did it that way, and I'm like, this is a pain in the ass. I got all my level 50 to Mark 1. Now I got it all to Mark 2. I'm spending a fortune, wasting time. And then I had shit like to Mark III and stuff like that, and I was in the ops, and so he's like, yeah, so why are you wearing Mark III on your shit? I was like, well, because I haven't had the money to upgrade them yet. He's like, upgrade them? Can't you make Mark VIs? I'm like, well, yeah, but I can't upgrade them. He's like, you're an idiot. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you can just put Mark VI on. If you can make Mark VI, you can put Mark VI on anything that's level, that's level appropriate. I'm like, I am gonna fucking kill that son of a bitch. So yeah. Yeah. So now they're all at Mark VI, and they got all good. The only thing I'm having issues with is getting the upgraded. You have to RE everything to get it up to the purples. Yeah. That's the only thing I'm having problems with. So other than that,
I did send you mail. So as I'm upgrading as I'm leveling my slicing, which is at 200, and I'll probably dick around on that for a few hours before I go to bed today.
Yeah.
Assuming I can even sleep in the anticipation of dear wifey coming home with foods.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know. It's a 12 to 14 hour trip from Ohio back to Alabama. My dad normally drops off the car on the way to his house, so I don't know. I hope she wakes me up. I want sandwiches. But, it was an oversight on my part, and, I try to be as accurate as I can be when I present things to you guys, so just be happy if I didn't say it last week, that I didn't fuck it up telling you guys.
Wow, would we be getting some hate mail?
Oh, dude, that'd be awesome. I flew 1 million creds, and I just fuck you.
Yeah.
But, overall, I'm really, and see, you think you got hit on the ability to get the augment slots because of how many mats you went through. I not only went through mats, but I also went through the auction house buying mats. So I was playing the overinflated prices. Oof. And on top of that, I ended up finding out, because I'd never really looked at my augments on my Sork.
Right.
Each person that can do augments, every augment's slightly different.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to boost your primary stat, in my case, I have to go now to Lanyard to provide me with purples, because you have aim and endurance, whereas I have power, crit, and other endurance. Right. And I'm like, son of a bitch, because I was going to go straight power, but I figured, just like in WoW, when you boosted your primary stat, it had reciprocating effects. So now I'm hoping that I can get the mets together for you to be able to make me all the aim and endurance purples.
Yeah, and I've got to look to see on the GTN too to see if I'm missing any.
And then of course there's the additional adjunct to, if you are running a lot of ops, you now have the level 23, 24, 26 augments, which are way the fuck better.
I can only make 22s.
I've noticed an increase in damage on my bounty hunter just by going ahead and putting the level 22 blues in my gear. So it's a great way to tweak your character quite a bit. I still think, because I haven't seen any number crunchers out there, I haven't seen any spreadsheets yet, I still think that boosting your primary stat is going to be better than specializing it to power or crit. In the event of a healer, I still think maybe balancing out willpower with alacrity would be a good way to go.
Yeah, well, that's just like with a tank. My tank, I want to balance out absorption and shield. Yeah, balance out my absorption and shield. I want to also increase my endurance, but balancing my shield and absorption is primary important because I'm a tank. Granted, more endurance is nice, but that's the primary. So, and I went back through and I changed out some augments, and I actually lost a little endurance, but now my shield and my absorption are at 50% each. So, which is right about where I want to be. And so now I got to figure out how to tweak some stuff around to get a little more endurance, because I was originally only wearing, Ricotta. I was at like 22,000. I lost it down. I'm like 21,700. So I'm still there, and that's with buff. Now, granted, after all the ops buffs and everything else, it goes up into the 23, 24 area. But but just running around just with my buffs and stuff without any things popped, no stims, I'm at 21,745 or something like that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I wish I had good a gear. This is going to sound retarded. On my Sork as I do my Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
Because my Bounty Hunter is now running around in predominantly Kalumi or Ricotta gear,
Right.
and his damage is ridiculous. I'm still 50-50 on Naga on my Sork, where half of it's Battlemaster gear and half of it's raid gear, which is depressing because that what was it? The dude they had in our ops group on my side that was the operative.
Never
Die. Yeah.
No, never.
Was it's
Never Die.
No, yeah, Never Die. He was occasionally way out fucking healing me, but that was also a misunderstanding of who the fuck we were supposed to be focusing on.
Yeah.
To which I say, if you're going to have healers per group, do not tell them to split it into 2 rows. Have them split it into the group size you are looking at. We ran that 16-man. I was in charge of healing 4 fucking people. I thought I was in charge of healing all 8. And I was completely fucked.
That's all right. It's everybody. It was kind
You
of
learn and you live.
that was kind of a mishmash anyway.
Yeah.
I really kind of wish we would have got that guy down though, because it would have been, because after that droid,
Yeah.
Everything's cake from there. I mean, the lava monsters just kite him around, stay out of the lava.
It's really funky.
Soa,
There's a lot of
Soa's
there's
just
a lot of FPs and there's a lot of FPs and there's a lot of ops, and almost every one of them, the very first boss is the bitch.
First or the second, yeah.
And it's like
It's never the main boss. The main boss,
No.
you think the superpower, hard as hell boss.
Yeah.
They usually have like a ton of HP, but
it takes forever, but-
simple mechanics. Just
Right.
kite them around. But it's always that first or second boss that's just fucking rips. That's like in Denova. Those first 2 just Zoth and Torin. They've got something like that. Anyway, they've got some seriously goofy mechanics. The next ones had pretty straightforward mechanics. They just hit like hell. So, yeah.
But there's a few things I want to touch on before we get running. Joseph Squalis, one of our loyal listeners, he said he wanted to know, just like everybody else did with last episode, where do we see free to play coming, or if we see free to play coming?
Didn't we discuss this last week?
Yes, but I wanted to talk to him. He posted it like right after the episode.
Okay.
So, he asked that where do we see that coming? How will it affect the game if it happens? As he tries to decide to go month to month or renew, a half a year. And really, I don't see it coming straight away. I think after we see the first expansion or massive content release, which we presume will more than likely be around the anniversary of the game, so the 1-year launch, so sometime in November. I think at that point we'll have a better idea. I don't see it going free to play anytime soon.
No, and on top of that, if he's worried about the free to play that we've discussed last week, it's not across the board.
Right.
It's only for the first few levels. So if you have a level 50, you're gonna have to still pay a subscription.
Yeah.
So pay it as you normally would.
Yeah.
Unless you plan on re-rolling a bunch of level 20s and just staying at that.
Well, I think for the sake of the game and for the sake of the people playing the game, I want to say don't expect FTP anytime soon.
No.
If there is a massive shift in the amount of money or amount of ways they can figure out how to make money from microtransactions, then you may see that happen sooner. But there are dozens of games, MMOs, MMOs in general, that have run decades without ever going free to play, even before the predominance of free to play, just because of the fact that they have a loyal subscriber base. They would rather see people pay for the game in and of itself and be able to provide them with a better amount of content. Age of Conan was a terrible game and had so many pay-to-play options that I never got out. I played one character for a little while and I was bored to death.
Yeah.
There are other games that never that were free to play, but you paid for the expansions. I think EQ works that way, where you can still play the game completely free. You just have to pay for the game in and of itself. And I do see issues with that. It's really up to you. If you still enjoy Star Wars, and you're finding the game with the super servers to be more behooving as far as your MMO experience, dude, go for 6 months, save the cash there, and don't even worry about it. I don't see it going free to play anytime within this year, and dependent upon the the game content released in, we'll say November-ish, then you can definitely, if it's well received by the public, then you should see an increase in numbers again. I don't see free to play within the next year.
Yeah.
I don't see it within the next year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah.
I see it being a 3-year option, dependent on the long term. So there you go, man. Hope that amends your worries to a certain extent there, Joseph. I did want to bring up one post. I got really bored, and I was thinking of SWTOR or Star Wars related parodies. And though I hate Rebecca Black.
Who the hell is Rebecca Black?
Rebecca Black is a 14-year-old who can barely sing and cannot write, and is a pop sensation currently. Mommy and Daddy bought her a studio time, and she has a YouTube channel and probably has the most dislikes I've ever seen on every video. She has a terrible song called Friday, and there's a great spoof of it. I linked it on our main site, or on our Facebook page, called Prime Day. This guy did a terrific job, and there's even a little bit of pop culture humor at the very end of it. So definitely a lot of fun. If you guys want an enjoyable video to watch and listen to that makes fun of Rebecca Black, enjoy that. I didn't even know who she was until I started listening to Hollywood Babylon, the Kevin Smith, one of Kevin Smith's mini podcasts. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely love that show. I know you and Kevin both go, I can't listen to it, but I enjoy it personally. Okay. And just as an update, of course, on our way to 100 likes, we are currently at 74. So for those of you who are wondering, we've got about 28 to go, roughly. Yeah, it's about 28 because we got to hit the 103 mark. Right. But we've got about 28 more to go. I would really, really like to see you guys knock that out of the park, so that those of you who are worried about free to play can get to play for 60 days for free.
There you go.
But hopefully today's episode has been informative and enjoyable for everybody as always. We look forward to hearing any responses, whether on iTunes. Remember that if you want to see the video feed, then we will continue posting once I get a hold of the guys at TGN RPG, but we'll still be posting with them for the time being. But we will, as an adjunct, be posting a TGN flyer list version of our podcast video on our Sith Talk YouTube page. Of course, I don't get to tweet as much as I usually do, but you can always touch us, touch base with us on Twitter. We're immediately alerted to that via email, which I have to admit, the the server condensation day did garner us quite a few more followers on our Sith Talk page.
Cool.
But it's been great talking to you guys as always. As a last going out, remember that our normal video feed we do use Uvu. Uvu is one of our great sponsors. You can click any of the links on our Podomatic.com site and be able to be immediately linked to any one of our many awesome sponsors. And well, guys, until next week, we'll see you in the pit.
Thank you again for joining us here on Sith Talk. Lanyard and I look forward to talking with you next week. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Sith Talk, or stop by our Facebook page at facebook.com/Sith Talk. And of course, our Gmail is sithtalk@gmail.com. This music brought to you by freeplay.com. And remember, peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. Through victory my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.